Well, Alain Poupart started in Canada. He's now in South Florida, has been for a long time. Right? Alan, pleased to chat with you, publisher of All Dolphins for Sports Illustrated. I've been reading your stuff for a long time. It's a pleasure to bring you on in a Dolphins home game week. The Eagles in town Saturday night after a week of joint practices. Welcome to the RP show, man. How you doing? How's your Friday?
Pretty good so far. Thanks for having me on.
Well, listen, before we go into this deep Dolphins talk, you've been covering this team since 1989. I think I'm more interested in your story, how you got to Quebec to covering the Dolphins.
Yeah, well, I moved with my parents here in the early 80s, went to school, studied journalism, and eventually got a job and started with Dolphin Digest in 1989. So that's when I started on a full-time basis and went through a couple of different jobs, but never stopped covering the Dolphins on a full-time basis. And now this is going to be my third season as the publisher of All Dolphins.
Well, it's obviously been quite a ride. You do a fantastic job, and I've particularly enjoyed your detailed practice. Listen, I covered the Saskatchewan Roughriders for 20 years. I'm reading your training camp updates. I'm like, they're just like mine. This guy's grinding. It's been hot out there at Baptist Health Facility, but it looks like the Dolphins have been getting a lot of great work done. So what's the outlook here heading into Saturday night's game against the Eagles?
Well, there's a lot of mystery here going on this week because they had to cancel the second of the two joint practices with the Eagles Thursday because there was a stomach bug going around several Dolphin players. Head coach Mike McDaniel said it was more than a couple of players, not half the team, so it wasn't like that dramatic, but they wanted to be extra cautious about not spreading the thing around and wanted to make sure that they'd be able to play the game Saturday night. So now, having said all that, with every preseason game, particularly a finale, it's up in the air who's going to play, who's not going to play. And now you got this added to the mix because we don't know which players were affected by it. And if somebody was affected and is still not feeling great either today or then tomorrow heading into the game, they're obviously not going to play. As it is, you wonder, okay, how many of the frontline players are going to play? Is there really a need to? Tyreek Hill hasn't played so far in the preseason. Do we really need to see him in a preseason game to know he's fast? I'm going to say no. Tua Tagovailoa played 2 series against the Raiders last Saturday. Actually had a pretty solid outing, even though those 2 drives produced only 3 points. But whenever you're talking about the quarterback positions, I mean, there are circumstances around the quarterback that affect his performance. I mean, it's not his fault that Sony Michel was stuffed for no gain on 2nd and 1 and 3rd and 1, and an offensive lineman committed a false start when they were going to go on 4th down, limiting them to a field goal. So that's not on him. And then the first drive ended on a 3rd down incompletion when tight end Mike Gesicki didn't turn around. So long answer short, it's becoming a long answer, actually. The outlook for tomorrow is the biggest question. Is we don't know who's going to play. I wouldn't expect a ton of the frontline players to play because the last thing you want is somebody to tear an Achilles or blow out a knee in the preseason finale. They've done some good work in practice, and that's as valuable, if not more, than what happens in the preseason game.
Alan, mon ami, if I can read some viewer comments here, if you don't mind. Jeff in Winnipeg says, Vive les Expos. Andrew Stout says, Bonjour, Alain. And that's why I said your name the way I did. I apologize prior to the break. Bilingual here. Expos, Randy from Winnipeg, 1994 Expos world champion. So they're paying attention to what you're wearing, Alan, this morning.
Breaking my heart right there. So, when I hear 1994 Expos, it crushes me every time I hear it.
Yes, me too. Right. So, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to point out that you're absolutely right. I'm French Canadian, but I've lived here so long, and I have my first name butchered so long that I just ask people just call me Alan. So.
Okay, well, I'll call you whatever you want. I appreciate you coming on the show. And we're not going to have enough time to get everything that I want. We'll have to bring you back another time. But I got to say this, Tyreek Hill, I think it was just yesterday, saying great things coming from the Dolphins. And Stephen A. said this morning he's just talking on behalf of the Dolphins marketing team. This team's going to be brutal this year. So what do you think is the outlook for the Fish in the AFC East?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. They're not going to be brutal. That's completely ridiculous. Are they going to be as great as Tyreek Hill is portraying? Yeah, that's hard to believe too. But look, here's the thing. is he wanted a new contract. KC didn't want to pay him what he wanted. The Dolphins made the trade. They gave him a huge contract, I think, which includes, I believe, it's $72 million guaranteed. I'll tell you what, you give me that kind of money, I will say the most fabulous things about the Rod Pedersen show. And I will do it with a smile on my face, and everybody will believe me. So, and this is why at every turn, every chance he's gotten, he has pumped the tires of the team, particularly Tua. And because of all of the stories that came out, and which weren't exactly wrong, that Brian Flores was not necessarily a huge fan of Tua, a lot of this offseason and into training camp and into the regular season has been about, let's build this guy's confidence. They got a lot of pieces around him with not only Tyreek Hill, but Teron Armstead at tackle, a lot of speed in the backfield with Chase Edmonds, Raheem Mostert, Cedric Wilson, another wide receiver. So they basically put everything in place for Tua to succeed. And another part of that was, let's build up the guy's confidence. And Tyreek Hill, one of the very first press conferences he had, talked about how confidence makes him a better player, in addition to his incredible speed, which we've already mentioned, and that he wants everybody on the team to be very confident, which is why he's throwing out the hyperbole when he's talking about Tua Tagovailoa being, like the most accurate passer who's ever stepped on a football field. And it's over the top a little bit. And you also have to understand, you've covered football long enough. You ask a player about a teammate, what's going to come out? It's going to be roses and flowers, compliments all over the place. And you take those, you try to get nuggets of particular, details, specific details of what a player might say about another teammate. A teammate saying another teammate's going to have a good year or is good. It's really no newsflash there. So now, having said all that, again, I apologize if I'm being very long-winded with every question you ask.
Oh, gosh. No. You're the guest.
Oh, okay. Well, the Stephen A. Smith on this notion that Dolphins are going to be terrible, that's completely ridiculous. They were 9-8 last year, and they have much better talent on offense with all the acquisition. They have every single starter back on defense, along with Melvin Ingram, who's a veteran quality player. And the only loss, if you want to go there, is Brian Flores himself, who was kind of the architect of that defense and whose fingerprints were all over it. Now, they kept the defensive coordinator, Josh Boyer, but from where I sit, it's not quite the same, and that it remains to be seen whether he can have the same kind of impact in terms of scheming as Brian Flores did, because for his shortcomings, and some Dolphin fans would tell you he's got a ton of those, the man can coach X's and O's on defense. Like nobody's business. So, and then you look at a team that was 9-8 last year, with everything back on defense, the acquisition on offense, we figure they have the talent to be better than that record-wise. Their schedule is a lot more challenging than it was last year. So having said all of that, in a very long-winded type of way, the expectation is they're going to be in the mix for a playoff spot. Whether they can get there is going to depend on things breaking the right way, and that includes Tua Tagovailoa playing better than he's played his first two seasons, the defense being able to maintain the caliber of play close to what it was the last two seasons, the running game being a lot better, as expected, than it's been.
And staying healthy, which, brought Tua down last year, which we all know. Alan, thank you so much. Hopefully we can do this again. Maybe I'll see you Saturday night at the game, but this has been a long time coming. I love your stuff, and appreciate your time here today.
Rod, my pleasure. Anytime. Absolutely. Would love to do it again.
Alain Poupart of Sports Illustrated's All Dolphins.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching the RP Show on YouTube. And don't forget, we're live daily on YouTube from noon to 2 Eastern. If you like what you see, hit subscribe. And if you like the program, check around for other segments of the Rod Pedersen Show here on YouTube.